I'll email you again actually to much more information and detail. No, Sydney has been really good. Sydney is okay. It's good to be with the family because in the last few years, I was just, 1 month here, 1 month Indonesia, and, another month overseas somewhere. And so it's good to just stay now. It's good. I have to get a new studio here because, I didn't have studio before, just small one. And I need to, we are perfectly all right because we live by the sea and we can go for a long walk. And we don't have much, we don't have much complaint really. Just that I cannot travel. I cannot travel to Indonesia where where I see my assistant and, so materials and all of those. So I have to work it all by myself right now. And I'm actually, like next week, I have a show in Gwangju Biennale. That was hard work because I have to complete it myself and I cannot go now. So, and, last year I have a lot of kind of exhibitions. It's a bit hard work.
Setting up at home to do all their recording for their auditions, which is what I'm doing now. So it's forced me to become completely, I love it. In one sense, I'm not going to stop. Nice.
Please speak slowly with me. Through the communication that was possible to do from the balconies, we didn't have the faintest idea how we would go on. We tried to make a small gesture of solidarity with the Photographers United initiative, where it was Sonia and Shannon also participated. And we collected almost 10,000 euros to donate, Sonia, I don't know this, to donate to a parish priest who assists and it helps many people in my town. The vaccine is giving us hope and the strength to move forward. But many people have lost their job. And many people feel a lot of anger and no more singing on the balconies. It's been almost a year. Even my camera is in lockdown. And during the first phases, I tried to use it by taking something out the window. And one night I took some shots on my TV because I missed the photo. I see how many people don't have money, don't have work, but now it's not simple because we could have a crisis of government. We are with the fragility economy.
I go out shopping, they're not allowed to go anywhere. They can't even go to their friend's house. It's been like that for months actually. All of the bars have been closed for some time, restaurants are closed. They have curb service. And I'd say where I am, it's a city of about 500,000. It's a small city. We still have some COVID, and there's maybe a couple of deaths a day or something yesterday. But in Toronto, there's maybe 5-6 million people. It's kind of
Actually, my first name is Nawruz, but my friends call me Now. So, well, basically, I'm into animation, graphic artists, and I'm currently employed in a university just nearby. So that's what keeps me going. And now, telling my experience during the lockdown, it was really kind of messy and chaotic and disorganized. That's all I can say. Prior to the lockdown, I was living in like one room. It's like an apartment with its own sink and CR and everything. Basically, there's not much to it because I really go out often, you know, from my room, and then I go out to my work, and then I go back, because I usually kind of like, even though I'm an introvert kind of guy, but I'm kind of socially, like I always go out. So when the pandemic strike, it was, at first we were all fearful, right? Like, everyone was really confused, but then some details were coming, and then you don't know what is going to happen. So to give you an idea, we had the strictest lockdown in the world. You can go to a market or to a store, like we're allotted only like 2 hours, 3 hours, and we had to wear an ID just to say that we come from this area. And in our community, we have this group of families, and it's gated. They bar everything, so we can go out. No, you can't even like go out for an exercise. Basically, I was unproductive. My access was mostly social media, the internet. The goal was really just to survive, even though I'm unproductive. So there, but then I learned a lot during the videos. I tried to busy myself, even when I'm just in my room. So most of my work right now, it's also been affected. On my regular work, I tend to organize film workshops, because I was employed in a film institute. So I tend to organize classes, but because of the pandemic, we are not allowed to form classes. My freelance friends who had no projects, they're just waiting. It was somehow a bit lucky for me. That's my experience. So far, I'm good. So I'm trying to like recover. I really got depressed when I was in the room. Really accept the fact that you are really sad. Curfews until now, it's until 10 o'clock, 10 to 6 a.m. First 3 months, it was really, really tough. We're still debating if we're gonna have mass testing or not. But fortunately, we don't have this debate about wearing masks, because we were all worried, and we were all fearful.
Something about a project that I'm working on at the moment. I've got, hopefully, depending on lockdown, etc., in the UK, I've got an exhibition in September this year, and I've been working towards that. And one of the pieces is around, because we were talking about it being a sort of around take care and COVID and stuff, I've got a piece that's in response to the COVID pandemic, because the whole exhibition is around mourning and lament, but healing as well. I'm quite a slow worker, so first initial idea was probably about 15 years ago, but it's sort of accumulated and snowballed. So I've got quite a few pieces now that together make an installation work. I'm going to start making probably in the next month when I'm in lockdown from work, because that's just been announced in the UK today. Maybe a month, maybe longer. An upsetting evening actually, because we were just starting to pull ourselves together again, really, in some ways. It's all back on hold again. Restrictions in the UK all since March last year. I have been doing quite a lot of work that involves things that I can do in that situation, like involving other people in the process of creating. And I sort of feel it's a hospitable thing. In a way, it is a caring thing to listen to other people and to hear what they are feeling and thinking. To doing that when you're stuck in a house in a North Yorkshire town is not easy sometimes. This is a piece which is about the experience of COVID. This is only one of the pieces for the exhibition, a piece called Gag, and it's about how we are all responding to the experience of being restricted and the process of the pandemic. I don't know how it is in New Zealand, probably very different to here, but there's quite a lot of distrust and upset within our country because the government's handled things so badly. I'm printing a mask, as you can see, and I'm printing one for every day since 16th of March, which is when lockdown started in the UK, and I will keep printing them till the end of restrictions or right up to the day of the exhibition opening.
Going well, I can't complain. Although, you know, the whole pandemic thing's got me depressed. But other than that, it's been good for art making though. Because normally I would be running around doing all sorts of work. And, but I've been in the studio 90% of the time. And it's made me realize just how much I need to be in the studio because I'm working on a new series and I've been jumping in and jumping out. Several years ago, I decided to do representational art. I wanted to do some landscapes, but I didn't want to do a regular landscape. I wanted to do a landscape that describes the planet. So how do you do a landscape that describes the planet, a planetary understanding of a landscape? I don't know what that is, so that's what I'm exploring. You know, I had to evolve to this. I didn't start out like this. I started out just wanting to do very small work. And I wasn't sure if I should do that at the time because I started this maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago. Before cell phones had taken off. And I was like, this small work, anybody gonna look at this small work, you know? But when cell phones took off, it just gave me, you know, the impetus to, yeah, okay, people gonna look at small work. I want to document the world as I know it since it's disappearing, since so much of it is disappearing. And when I was younger, you know, I studied horticulture. Then I thought about what the planet was doing and how I should respond to it. And then this whole idea of trying to do a landscape that describes the whole planet. It began with me wanting to paint the whole ocean. I wanted to illustrate the whole ocean. You know, the whole ocean. You know, how do you illustrate the whole ocean? You know, all of them and the whole 9 yards. You know, I was obsessed with that. And then I realized I'm really trying to illustrate the planet and not just a geographical location.
My artistic creative journey. You know, I'm an artist who people ask, you must be an artist. Where's your work in the gallery? And it's a bit hard for me to show them. For me, my artisticness has always seemed like a very personalized journey. I never wanted to do art simply for the money of it or for the profession of it. It was more to refine my skills so that I can do it for myself. But I did find a niche maybe about 15 years ago, which combined my work from the time I was maybe 22, 23 years old till my early 30s, and combined that with who I was in my 30s till today. It's evolved a little bit, but I began mostly in digital art, graphic design and things like that. Graphic design was a way for me to use my creativity, but in a way that made me money to survive. Through that kind of aspect, I ended up getting into social development work and offering the visual aids to the information that organizations had, but always community focused, always how can we visualize this in such a way that people can understand it, and we cut out the words, cut out as much of the blah, blah, blah as possible and use an image instead. I worked with many artists and many artistically inclined events in terms of choreographing what artistic medium would work best for whichever message it was. And that's taken me through a whole range of art and creativity. I've worked with NGOs and brought artists in to do the artwork. I've utilized what the artists are going through to create events around which dialogue can happen. Worked with art for expression with young children. Wherever I felt I fit, I just did that, and I did that artistically and creatively. In my 30s is when I realized by working at a deaf school, what my true purpose with art was. And that was definitely sharing information, but also the therapeutic aspects of going through the process of creativity. And that is where I'm at now. So most of my artwork has been artwork that's associated to what my own truth, my own message would be through art that I did for myself. Even if it was a little doodle in my book, I call it meditative art, actually. And coming from an indigenous culture that we find a lot of the old art on the rocks. We have a huge history of artifacts that show that the creativity and the storytelling and how culture and lifestyle was so incorporated in the process of doing. The pots and the knives and the maps, but making them because there was a deeper, longer story, and they become legacies, a kind of legacy of information of who we were as a people became very important to me creatively as well. And on my own spiritual path, my artwork did become a huge part of my spiritual conversations and looking inward and using art as a way to release that messaging in my best way. I don't have one standard way I do my art. I do what needs to be done to tell that particular story, especially considering where we're at in the world today, the importance of authentic thoughts and critical thoughts for yourself. It's become so important. Where do you stand? And what is your message while the world needs messaging?
I grew up in Limassol and Paphos. My father grew up in Nicosia, kind of Mediterranean mixture, Maltese, Irish, and born in Egypt. Drawing I made last year, we've been to visit the island in April, spring, so it's one of the drawings I made when I returned back to Ireland. So kind of indirect portrait of my father. This is at a closed border crossing in the heart of the old city. The border in Nicosia, in Cyprus, has been open for about 10 years, and that's really changed major dynamics on the island. There's select border crossing points. This one is close to an amazing art centre of a childhood friend and a very close family friends. Music program, exceptional artists to come to the island. Music master classes for youth and children on both sides of the island. On the south side of the city, and family home where he grew up was on the north. The poet is calling for compassion. And I think that's what artists, from what I understand, what artists are doing on the island, the kind of any sense of a political solution to the division, that sense of hope is a scant resource. But it is artists, it's citizen groups who are doing that kind of peace building, and in so many ways the green zone, that border is becoming a kind of contact zone. It's something you picked up on so powerfully in your performance and installation, Sonia, and it's become a very charged place for Cypriots. So I was picking up on that in one sense in the drawing. It did seem something like an aerial mapping.
I know Cyprus very well, and one thing that I always do when I go to Cyprus is walk along the Green Line in Nicosia. Of course, on the southern side, I've never been to the north. In the past, I couldn't go because I have a Greek name. And now that we can go, I don't want to go because I have to give my passport. And what really struck me there, because the image is beautiful, it is full of barbed wire.
Yes.
And if you know Cyprus in a way that I kind of know it, right to the middle, and there's the barbed wire. And like I said, when I go to Cyprus, I do this journey on my own when I go across the Green Line and look at all of those blockades and the things that you can't go past.
I understand all the sensitivities and the weight that it carries.
Yeah, it's massive. It really, really is. I mean, it's the only divided capital in the world, and it's a great shame, and it's a very, very sad story. And I'm not a very politically minded person in general, apart from quite recently with Trump and COVID. My head's just sort of exploded with it all. But I never knew I could talk politics that much. And that image that I'm looking at now of yours, quite poignant. There's that sadness, that past. But that past is also the present.
If artists and writers, as they frequently are concerned with boundaries and transitions and with exploring conceptualizations of beginnings and endings, it is because the need to see beyond difference and distinction and division has never been greater. And I think that counts for South Africa or Brexit Britain or anywhere.
Excellent.
Malista.
I was born in the UK. My mum was English but half Irish, and my dad's from Cyprus, and I live in Greece. So I was born in the UK. I'm half Cypriot, half English. I've been here for over 20 years now, and I work as a teacher, but I studied fine art in the UK. I did a master's in profound learning disabilities. So I've worked a lot in education, but I also do exhibitions as well. I've participated in a number of group exhibitions and some solo exhibitions. How I met Sonia, because, well, I haven't met Sonia in person. It was to do with a project that I set up 2 years ago. We used to go out for lunch during the week. I mean, daily, essentially, lunch, dinner. And for us, it's like well-being, because now I have to go and see my dad at his house and outside his house. I don't even go inside. So for us, it's well-being, you know, that meeting and that place. But for those people that work in those places, it's their livelihood. And that's really tough, because they're not earning a living. But for a lot of people, yeah, this is really, really tough, that there are people that don't have anything now. That was really important to me, supporting businesses where I can. So, but then they've postponed that until next week. But, you know, that could just go on and on. The schools have been closed for a while, but they open the primary and nursery schools on Monday this week. But I expect they're all going to close again soon.
A lot of my creative energy has gone there recently. I've been doing a lot of writing, and that has been, you know, demanding a lot of my attention. I've also been engaging in some public dialogues around the issue of race. So that also has been engaging me in a lot of ways. So I'm working on a book called Redbone. Redbone is a term that comes from the Deep South. It's a way of referring to fair-skinned Black women who are of mixed race ancestry. My mother was very fair-skinned because my great-great-grandmother was Irish, and we also have some Native American roots in us. So the story is really it's a memoir about my time spent with her growing up in New York City and also New Orleans, Louisiana, and just the trajectory of that and how it shaped me as a person. So, and then I'm working on a project surrounding the first African-American Baha'i, Robert Turner, out in Northern California. That's going to be a visual work, which involves some kind of landscape architecture stuff, which I am totally adrift in. So I'm going to be depending on the wise counsel of people who have traveled that road before. But so I mean, it's, I have been spending a lot of time on a computer, like a lot of people, Zoom meetings, remote design work on this project that I'm doing in California, and even the voiceover stuff I'm recording at home. And all, it's crazy because I also do acting. And before the pandemic hit, you would actually go someplace to tape your auditions. Now, every actor that I know is setting up at home to do all of their recording for their auditions, which is what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. So it's forced me to become I love it in one sense. I don't have to leave the house, which is nice, unless I really want to. But it's a shift. It's different. So that's how it's been here. And the last thing I'll say is that I think artists are specially equipped to deal with something like being shut in, because we don't get as bat crazy, because we're not being alone and working on our own is not something that's totally foreign to us. So in that way, I've been fortunate, as I'm sure some of you have been, with being able to endure longer periods of isolation than perhaps other people who aren't accustomed to doing that.
I can tell it very quickly because it's rather boring. There's nothing going on. Everybody's just sitting home, and it started in the beginning of December because too much people got sick. Yeah. So everybody had to stay home, and now we just heard that it's gonna last for another 4 weeks. So we're staying at home for another 4 weeks. Good. So you can go outside, for a walk or so, and you can do shopping, but there's all the museums are closed, the galleries are closed. Everything. Also the shops, I'm running out of paint now, so I'm living close to a shop that sells it, but I have to order it online, to get it home. So it's boring. Because you can invite a friend, you can have 2 people over, but no birthdays, no Christmas parties, no New Year's drinks. All the stuff you don't normally do is cancelled. So it's kind of boring. Everybody is just hanging around it, and it's winter time in Holland, so it's grey. It's dark, it's cold, nothing going on. So normally everybody has parties and is boozing, in January, celebrating the new year, etc. So you drink yourself through the month, but that's also not going on. It's working in the studio.
Yeah, working in the studio.
In the studio, yeah. So, and sleeping long hours in the morning. So yes, school are closed, yeah. They're also home. In the studio now, but the kids are, sitting at the kitchen table doing their homework. So everybody is home. Wow. Yeah, but they're 15 and 17, so I don't have to school them. They already had a lot of online lessons. I really pity the kids of that age. The whole quarter group. Sonia knows us. Everybody is fine. We didn't have anybody who got sick or. We even organized a big support fair in September for the artists with a lot of people, but then in patches of not more than 30 in the gallery. Yep. Nobody got sick. It all went well. We sold a lot of work. It was really fun. But then after that, it's just we could just do that in September, and now everything is closed again. With 12 hours difference, we always have to get up really early or to stay up really late, you know, to be in conversation. I was organizing this big show. I'm already working for 2 years on a big painting show on different locations, and we just canceled it. So it was opening on the February 6th. Yeah. And we really thought maybe we can go on, but just only a few people inside, and you know, but we just canceled that whole thing. So actually my diary is empty now.
Ja, we hebben geschaatst. Ik heb foto gestuurd, hè?
Ja, dat is mooi. En ik heb hem op de website.
Met Pietertje en Zeger. Nog mensen van Kwartier.
Lijkt op een van Bruegel.
Ik zag ook nog één bekende.
Misschien.
Ja, Martin Bowen.
Ja, van Nine Dragon Heads. Ja.
Die heb ik ontmoet met Nine Dragon Head. 2019. In DMZ, in Korea. Ja, met Pietertje was erbij.
Ik ken hem, ja. Ik ken hem heel lang. Hij is ook een Baha'i.
Wij hebben nou bijna alle virussen van de wereld. We hebben all the variations. We are quite lucky. South Africa, Brazil en Engeland. We're doomed. We hebben weer een verlengde lockdown. Het was eerst tot en met 9 februari, February 9. En nu is het in maart ergens. We hebben een typische Nederlandse lockdown, maar in ieder geval ook een avondklok hebben we. Ergens in januari begonnen. Je moet echt werk hebben en permission. Ja. Maar je mag wel met je hond naar buiten. De mensen hier hebben allemaal honden nu. Van die asiel hebben ze honden genomen. Of ze lenen honden. Dogs for hire. Hond van je buurman of zo lopen. Over het algemeen zijn de meeste mensen toch binnen. Kan je kijken? Zie je het?
Ja.
Niemand op straat.
Nee,
Nobody. Nobody in the street.
Er is geen hond op straat.
Ja.
Nee, het is heel rustig. Very quiet.
Ja, dat komt door het hondentekort.
Dat komt door het hondentekort.
Ja. De steiger, daar gaan ze bouwen. Dat is onze oudste pand. En die komt uit 1602. Ja. En precies recht aan de overkant woonde Spinoza, de philosopher. Wacht, kijk. Ik hoor een ambulance. Ambulance. In het begin waren er wel echt riots. Heb je gehoord? Eindhoven was terrible. Ook in Den Haag. Een beetje Schilderswijk zo. Hobbemastraat. Een beetje rellen schoppen. Een beetje mensen die graag vuurwerk afsteken. Fireworks. En af en toe hoor je gewoon heel veel vuurwerk de lucht ingehaald. Ja. Maar deze mensen zijn een beetje, geloven niet zo in die virus. Nu is iedereen wel weer rustig. Ook omdat ze hele hoge straffen kregen. Ik werk nog steeds bij Kwartier. Ja. Daar heb ik mijn studio. Ja. En we zijn nog steeds bezig. 30 jaar. Dit jaar ben ik 30 jaar werk ik in het pand van Kwartier, zeg maar. Maar 1 jaar later, in 1992, toen kregen we Kwartier. Mijn laatste project, wat ik een beetje aan het helpen ben, daarvoor zoom ik met België. En dat gaat over, dat heet Under the Church Tower, onder de kerktoren. En dat is een beetje een Vlaamse gezegde in België. En dat betekent dat alles heel erg lokaal is. Dus eigenlijk kleinschalig. Mm-hmm. We waren gewend aan globalism, also international art. Maar nu zijn we gedwongen om een beetje om ons heen te kijken. En het heel klein te bekijken. Ja, en ik heb iemand erbij gehaald, dat is Rosh Abdel Fattah. Hij is een Syriër. Rosh gaat 5 maart gaat hij uit Kwartier met QR-codes. Gaat hij live. En dan kan je sommige Arabische films bekijken.
My hometown is Wenzhou was the number 2 city, the one after Wuhan, back in January. We had a really strict lockdown for about 50 days. I mean, that's like a real lockdown. Like you can't go out at all. Like one family can send one young, strong person every other day just to pick up a grocery, you know, or if you need to buy medication. I mean, it's not a small city. We have like 9 million people. Wow. I always think it's small because we compare to Shanghai, that's like a 25 or 28 million people. So they will set up a checking point, people in and out. That's how restricted. You know, here in the US, I'm in San Francisco. We've been sheltered in place since March 16. We are the first city in the US started that. But as of December 4th, we are have been the most restricted ever. We cannot even go visit family member or meet up with friends if we don't live together in the same household. So it's really hard. And I just heard today in Los Angeles, every 8 minutes, someone dead of COVID. ICU bed is 0%. That's how horrible it is right now in the US. China, has been locked down and very restrict. The follow-up was the most important part, I believe, because anyone, testing positive, they trace all the time contact they have, sometimes like hundreds of people. Now, some of my friends live in the US, they went back to China. It's much safer. And just Xiao is without T, Xiao and Jie. Xiao means dawn, early morning. Jie means clean.
So I met Xiao many years ago, maybe
1998, when I first was in Holland.
So she came to Holland and to visit me. I think you were about to go to art school somewhere.
Yeah.
And you studied in Holland.
Yes, gallery in Fisherman's Wharf in January, which I haven't been really walking like a regular schedule for a very long time. I was mainly asked to help with a Chinese collector and Chinese artist, and also some local collectors. Right across the street from this large sign of, and it's also, I realized later, it's also the stop where the cruise ship parked. Like over 90% of the business are from tourists. I was talking to a family in the gallery, and they are very sick with the flu. 2 toddler was running around. I mean, we have really expensive, sculpture and display. And, I try to talk to the parents, please be careful, and I was like, I just don't hope I get it. And it's like instant, I got it. I battled it for like a month. Finally felt better. There was like a, sore throat and cough, very, very bad. And then quickly, in February, the COVID come into US. And so then we quickly closed, so I took it as, rather the shelter in place experience, like rather we are busy engaged with our social life and works. I look at a year looking inwardly, what's sort of reflecting. And I'm a very homey person. I like to stay in, and I always find the things to do inside, So then it dragged longer and longer. I was thinking maybe 2 to 3 months. Even China, even Wuhan was only 60 days. This was much longer. And people, it's really an eye-opening experience just to see how people respond. You know, as a Chinese, we are like, really, we listen to government, whatever they say, you know, we sort of like obey and sort of like do, you know, like people are also very protective of themselves. Like a mask is not an issue. I mean, we went through SARS, you know, it's a sort of like people are really, no problem with wearing mask. Here with such a like a fight argument, you know, even get it too violent, and people don't believe. And my parents, they live just across the Bay Bridge from me, 20 minutes. You know, they were afraid to walk out on the street wearing masks. They were afraid to being attacked, and all the rise attack to Asian people, like to Chinese, because Trump called it the China virus. I mean, it was very fearful. Then it came to myself. I was attacked by someone. June 24th, I was just outside my building walking my dog. I have a small Pekingese, very cold and windy. My street is a short, like end. It's like a dead end. So I came back to my street and I saw her still standing there. So I crossed the street, I walking on the other side, which is the side of my building. And I did look, right? Because I observed she was there. So I just walked slowly back, you know, mind my own business. She ran across the street and she raised her arm, hit really hard on my face. It was just like a full, you know, and she was saying, "What are you looking at?" And then she ran away. I was like, I was just so shocked. I was like, what are you doing? You know, and I don't even know how to respond. It was, you know, scary, sort of. I got inside my building. I felt safe. Then I called the police and they came right away. And what is interesting is I posted, like, I don't usually post things on social media. I'm, you know, really, I check on things, but I don't. But I just want to warn friends and family. The ABC 7 News, the San Francisco local station, they are looking for, because of the rising of attack Asian people. I wasn't think it was such a big deal with this attack. I didn't fall, I didn't hit the wall, I didn't, you know, sort of, you know, lose my consciousness, but the symptoms of a concussion. I think like 2 months, I finally felt maybe I'm over with it. But that's the physical symptoms. The psychological part, the fear is like really become, you know, especially then people started wearing masks. It makes me more afraid when I can't see people. And I'm fear of if people, you know, passing quickly behind me, or I see people a little strange or homeless people cross the street far away. I have this really sort of shock feeling. So I've been doing a lot of sort of like a mindful, you know, or meditation, different things, and try to understand. That's like the big incident. And it literally, in a way, it changing my life. I never really fear of anything. So I'm extra careful. I felt for, you know, weeks, I only feel safe in my car if I'm outside, inside my car.
It was very relaxed in Canada, and people tend to do what they're told, and they were wearing masks and washing their hands and keeping distance and stuff. And we had very low incidence of COVID through most of the summer and into the fall. And then in about December, it started to take off. And I just looked up the statistics. We're not like the United States, but we've had over 16,000 deaths. And it's really taken off. Anyway, so right now, the stores are closed. My kids, I have 3 boys, 2 in university and 1 in high school. They have to stay at home. All of their classes are online. Only I go out shopping. They're not allowed to go anywhere. They can't even go to their friend's house. It's been like that for months, actually. All of the bars have been closed for some time. Restaurants are closed. They have curb service. And I'd say where I am, and it's a city of about 500,000. It's a small city. Things, we still have some COVID, and there's maybe a couple of deaths a day or something, a few deaths a day. But in Toronto, there's maybe 5-6 million people. It's kind of, people are still taking the metro and not going well in Toronto. So I'm glad that I live in a smaller center place. I go to Costco and to the local supermarket, and that's it. Everything else is online. So I leave the house like twice a week, and I come back and everything is in our little house. It's like being in a spaceship.
I came back to Sydney in March when the lockdown was happening and everyone was closing their borders, hoping that this would be just a few months endeavor. But I remember calling my supervisor and telling her that I need to decide where I have to be in the next few months because everyone is going to close their borders. And she was like, no, it's going to be fine. Just stay in New Zealand. And after a few months, you can go back. And I'm like, I don't think. And I think I thought, you know, it could happen both ways. Then I could come back after a few months maximum. But that didn't happen. And it's been over a year now. But things are okay. No more studio space for you to go. No more interaction with people. I am at the end stage of my PhD at Auckland, so I am mostly writing, and I had to do a few of experiments and trials in the studio with people, but that has disappeared because we don't have people who can. I got a studio here in Sydney, but they haven't opened, so I've been mostly at home, homebound, so that has affected our practice or our, my installation was, I was always inviting people and the dialogue around the installation and people with the installation and the touch and the feel and in this space and the togetherness together again. And that's really exciting. I am still working on a few sound pieces and all the elements for my installation are separate, but I am bringing them together and doing some tests and trials at home. And I look forward to collaborating with Michelle on this. And I am flexible as well. I tend to think I'm an easy person. I think this is important. We collaborate, we make things together. And as an artist, I think we are, we have that potential and we have that potential to accept each other as they are. Personally, the hardest part is I used to travel a lot. I came from Pakistan in 2017 to New Zealand to do this PhD. And I used to make at least one trip back home once a year. So the hardest thing is during this pandemic where everyone's life is, a little bit complicated, that you can't go back home. Career-wise and professionally, there was a lot that I had in mind to be doing at this stage, but that has sort of slowed down. But I appreciate that in the sense that it gives you more time with yourself to realize, what's happening in the world and pause. I'm met up with more of my family than ever before because of Zoom. Family, extended family coming together, speaking at the same time.
In terms of the financial stress, because a lot of artists, I'm lucky to have other jobs, where money's coming in, so I'm not dependent on the government's help. But a lot of artists here, they fell through the cracks of the government support during the pandemic. And in the beginning, it was really bad because they really had no means of generating money. So